Okay, in this next lesson we're going to be taking a look at alternate picking stamina. Basically what I mean by that is playing really long passages and trying to build up your strength so you don't kind of lose that muscle strength halfway through playing these licks. This is stuff that I practice on a regular basis just to try and keep my muscles up without, tiring. A lot of people say to me, how do you keep the stamina going, like with some licks? I mean, it's not all about playing for really fast for a long time, but you want to have that kind of muscle power so you can do like short bursts or long bursts of licks and you don't get tired or anything like that. I mean, there's a physical aspect to playing guitar which I think a lot of people overlook. It's not just about coordination and musicality, although that is probably the most important thing, the musical side of things. But with technical guitar playing, it is like being a kind of athlete, really, with having like strong muscles and being able to just play the guitar with conviction, because it just sounds better. There's just no two ways about it. Anyway, I'm going to play this this long phrase, and then afterwards we'll break it down. So here it is. Okay, so basically we're just going to be using alternate picking, but there is going to be a secret to this, which we've looked at in other lessons, but it's going to be one pull-off in the middle of that, which is going to make everything hopefully seem a lot better. And you're not going to be picking all the notes, and hopefully it's going to help you break that barrier with speed, because a lot of people seem to hit that ceiling where they can't seem to get any faster, and I think this technique is really going to help with that. Okay, so hopefully you can notice where the actual pull-off comes in there. So we're going to be starting this lick on the 17th fret of the high E string, 19 and then 20, and then we're going to be playing the same frets on the high E string. Don't worry if you kind of get lost halfway through this lesson. There are tab and PDFs that you can download to follow all of these lessons, so just bear that in mind. So if you're watching this lesson, make sure that you've got that in front of you, then you can refer back to that, refer back to the video, and then hopefully it should be a lot quicker to sink into the old brain. Okay, right, so when we get to the 7th note, ascending and then coming back, that's when we're going to make the downstroke accent and then the pull off. So maybe just get used to that pattern. And then, once you speed it up, you can kind of get used to it. But there's a couple of things that you have to bear in mind when playing this. It's going to be the shifts. Okay, so maybe I'll show you that at slow tempo just before I carry on. Okay, so that means that when you go to the next position, you're on a downstroke and then you can carry on with it. Okay, so as you probably gathered, this will work nicely over the key of E minor. So again, you know, you just got to practice this stuff slow. Make sure you know where all your accents and changes are going to be. Like I said, you know, you can isolate any one of these positions and move into the next position. So you don't have to start at the beginning and do it. You can do it sort of halfway through, like. And then you can practice ascending as well. Okay, so hopefully you can start to feel a little bit of consistency building up within your playing, and that's really all alternate picking is. You know, it's just figuring out a certain formula that works for you and then applying that to kind of everything. I mean, obviously you want to be able to, you know, play different patterns and stuff like that, but you know, you can fundamentally start changing stuff when you've got that basic technique down and you don't really have to worry about anything, you know, and specifically. I mean, I'm doing this on the B and the high E string just because the lighter strings are slightly easier to get your head around, especially if you're, you know, if you are struggling with alternate picking. You know, they're just lighter, the pick goes through the strings a little bit easier. You know, when you start getting down onto the heavier strings, that's when it becomes a little bit more difficult. I mean, I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about picks as well, because I mean, I go through loads of different picks, you know, trying to find the perfect gauge which works. And the reason why I do that is because the lower strings are thicker than the higher strings, so obviously, you know, like one gauge might work really well for, say, the D and the G string and then the higher strings, and then when you get lower down the guitar you might find that your pick gets a little bit stuck. I mean, there's a couple of things that you can really do. You can kind of, you know, search to the ends of the earth for the perfect pick, or you can just you know, work out what's best to do, you know, with your technique to change it. I mean, I found that, you know, most string gauges and everything like that, you can kind of get over being stuck in, you know, the lower strings if you angle the pick, which is quite a good technique to get used to doing. Instead of having it like totally flat to the string, you angle it forward and it kind of glides off a lot better. I mean, it's gliding off my finger a lot better now than, you know, trying to get that bit of plastic through my finger. Like if you use the side of the pick, you know, if you look at some worn picks, they're always kind of worn more on one side than they are on the other. It's because, you know, most people that do alternate picking, they angle the pick forward so it slides off the string a bit easier. So if you're getting stuck in the string for any reason, then try angling it. I'd say that for like riffs as well, you know, because obviously a lot of that is down in the lower register of the guitar using the thicker strings. Angling that pick is going to be better. So instead of kind of getting stuck on, you know, there's a lot of resonance there, especially if you want to pick harder, you can actually angle the pick and it makes it smoother. See how much easier that is going through the string. You know, so angling the pick is a very important thing. Then when you come to playing your alternate picking, especially on the thicker strings, it's going to be a lot easier to drill through those. Okay, so that's kind of a fairly shaky example, but you can see what I mean. The kind of smoothness level jumps up once you know, really get a handle on what type of pick you want to be using. A lot of people use Jazz 3s because they're smaller, they're sharper, and you know that you get a bit more bite. A lot of people like to use standard Tortex picks, you know, just for the sheer tone of having a bigger pick and a bigger surface area with pushing that through the strings. So it really is up to you what you want to do. Dunlop have actually brought out these XL Jazz 3s, but they're actually in Tortex, so they're going to be new on the market soon, and I've actually been using these a lot. This happens to be an 88, which is got just enough give, because I pick quite hard, so it's got just enough give to get through that string, but it still gives you enough of a full tone that you might not get with a slightly thinner pick. So, you know, I've used everything from like 0.60s right up to 2mm picks, even 3mm picks. So you know, the search continues, but I think, you know, using an 88, kind of 94, 88, the lowest I'll probably go now is like a 73. Just depends on what I'm doing really, but you know, the picks are out there to experiment with and see which works for you. But I guarantee it, the difference a little bit of plastic makes to your playing is something that I think a lot of people may overlook, but it certainly had me on my toes for, like, especially the last few years, because before that I was using the same pick for everything, but I was starting to feel that, you know, I wasn't nailing certain things, and you know, I tried to really work on my technique to get it right, but ultimately there was just certain things about the pick that I was using that wasn't really allowing me to progress. So anyway, with that long picking phrase, you know, like I say with all my lessons, just kind of start slow, really figure out where your accent points are and where you're going to change, and try and do it to a metronome or something, so you know you can kind of keep time. But you know, I would say that after you've been using a metronome and a drum machine for a while, try and kind of play on your own a little bit, you know, so you can start to feel that 4-beat or whatever it is that you're playing on your own. And then, you know, when you get into a band context and stuff like that, you start playing with a drummer and you start jamming with guys, you know, you can start to manipulate your time to fit in with other people, because at the end of the day, that's kind of what makes a band work. You can't just turn up and play in your own BPM and then not kind of mesh with other musicians, because that kind of won't work. So it's also worth mentioning that practicing this kind of alternate picking technique over different BPMs is really going to give you the ability to manipulate that, because obviously there are certain songs that give you BPMs where playing licks like that might not, but it might make you play them like really fast. So you might have to get comfortable with alternate picking to the point where you can slow that back a little bit, and you can still play cleanly and precisely, and you can start to play at different speeds comfortably without, you know, practicing everything at one speed, and then when that changes, all your playing falls apart. So yeah, once you've you know, got to grips with playing it on the B and the high E string, then, you know, maybe move down to the sort of you know, the D string and the B string and try the same sort of thing. So I'm just going to play that for you quickly, just so you can hear how that sounds. Okay, so, you know, once you've figured it out, then you can start to play even longer lines, going from the D string, G string, up to the E string, including the B string as well. And then, you know, if you're starting to feel really brave, then maybe, you know, work on some of those techniques on the lower strings. Then once you get comfortable with that, start mixing it up and playing loads of different things. So as you can see, just kind of practicing, you know, from one position, just kind of getting used to doing that, you really are building that alternate picking technique. And then, you know, once you feel really comfortable with it, you can apply it to loads of different things and then start to improvise. And that's what I would say, getting really comfortable with this type of technique you know, in very kind of small increments, and then growing it and growing it and growing it, and see how long you can play for. And then, you know, you start improvising ideas and stuff like that, and then eventually it just becomes like speaking. You know, you can do this stuff just off the top of your head, and it's, you know, easy, and you can throw it into an improvised situation, into a band situation, or if you're just jamming, getting ready for recording, anything like that. You know, having this ability to be able to do this technique, not just with alternate picking, with other techniques as well, like tapping, sweeping, and all that kind of thing, and being able to join it all together and creating, you know, what you would associate with, you know, being able to speak another language or speak your own language. You don't think about it, so you just kind of get on and do it. And that's really where you want to get with guitar playing. So I would just say, you know, sit down, practice all of this stuff, and you know, try and use it in your own playing. And like I always say, just have fun with it.